Hi everyone, Alexandra, Jupiter Returns, here with your day-by-day weekly astrology forecast for the week commencing February the 24th. When I left you at the end of last week's forecast, I did mention to you to watch out on Sunday night for your dreams, as we had the moon meeting up with retrograding Mercury in Pisces, and I just wonder, did you have any interesting dreams last night? Because I certainly had that full-on alien invasion dream last night. So at least for me personally, that was a forecast come true. We had that beautiful Pisces new moon yesterday, of course, as well, starting off a gorgeous and very divinely blessed new cycle. And I put out on my Instagram and my Facebook a little project, essentially, with the connections that were being made to Uranus and Uranus's love of reinvention and experimentation. I put out a kind of an invitation to join with me, setting some new moon intentions of really looking at that area of life through the eyes of God, source, however you want to view that power in our lives, bringing the essence of unconditional love into that area of your life, wherever you have Pisces in your chart, whatever planets or angles fall within Pisces. And absolutely, it's not too late to join in with us on that if you'd like to. Just find yesterday's post on my Facebook page. I'll be actually starting up a little Facebook group for those people who wanted to follow this project. Essentially, what we'll be doing is in 6 months' time, when we have the full moon in Pisces that relates, it's the fruition point of this new moon that we've just had, that's when we'll see the results of our efforts in that area. And I'd really like, in the spirit of Pisces, to connect up with as many people as possible, and see if we can really bring about some magic here on Earth. So if you're interested in joining in with that, then leave me a comment on YouTube, Insta, Facebook, however you like, and I'll make sure that you're involved in that. So where we find ourselves today then, the moon's still in Pisces, moving around in between the Mercury retrograde and Neptune there. We've actually got today Mars over there in Capricorn, exalted in Capricorn. Mars enjoys himself there. His passion and his fire and his energy is really extended and prolonged, and used to its tenacious best in this sign. And Mars is sextiling with the Sun in Pisces. And this is a beautiful aspect that can really give our confidence, our self-confidence, a boost. It can make us feel higher in energy and just feeling a little bit more confident about ourselves, a little bit, possibly a bit more competitive than ordinary. And that is something that we need to be aware of. Let's utilize that for more desirable effects, rather than kind of getting into a sort of less aware manifestation of the competitive energy. But yeah, it can give us a real boost, make us feel more vital, make us feel more energized. So that's going to be present for a few days. So we can really tap into that and really feel good. And when we bring these two elements together, earth and water, I wrote a piece last week about this on my Facebook page. The potter's wheel, essentially, what we're making clay. When we bring earth and water together, you know, it's clay, and we can mold things, we can shape things accordingly. And that's a beautiful power to have. Okay, I'm just going to, we've got Mercury retrograde in full effect here today, haven't we? I think I'll just hold on to it. So let me just check we're recording okay. I think we are. We'll just see if we can get rid of that. No, don't think we can. Okay. So yeah, tapping into that Mars and Sun energy, and really using that to sort of blend, change ourselves in a way that puts us in the driving seat. Essentially, what do we want to be going forwards? We've just started this brand new lunar cycle, and with the connection with Uranus, then we really get to reinvent things. And clay is wonderful. If we don't like the shape we first come up with, then we can just throw it back on the wheel and have another go and come up with something new. So that's the energy that we've got. We've got a lot of potential around this week to really make something better, essentially. So at 5 p.m. today, that's Monday, the 24th of February, the moon will then meet up with Neptune in home ground of Pisces. So this is incredibly romantic energy. This is all about the dream and the vision, the idealism of Neptune. And we really feel it in an emotional way. And this is wonderful. Anyone who's done any law of attraction work, anyone who's involved in the process of manifestation, co-creating, this is the perfect kind of energy to capture, because when we can really feel a vision of how we want things to be in our body, in every aspect of ourself, as though we've already achieved it, that's when we really send a powerful vibration out into the universe, and the universe will match that up for us. So as I say, it's not too long to join my little Pisces project and see what we can make. The Mars Sun connection. So I'm a Pisces, so I do a lot of metaphor. I was listening to a piece on the radio this morning talking about solar panels, and how when they're really successful, when they're really doing their stuff, not only do they give us our own energy for our own home, but they feed back into the grid, okay, for others to use as well. And I couldn't have come up with a better metaphor for the Mars-Sun connection, really, particularly with Pisces being the sign that wants to connect to everyone, that knows we are all connected. If we can get our solar power, Sun, Mars, working at its best possible kind of potential, then we let our light shine. And it connects up and it feeds back into the system as well, into the system of connection that we're all part of. So by doing the work for yourself in this way, with it being in Pisces, that radiates out for everybody to take advantage of. Absolutely the best way to lead, in my opinion, is through example. You can hammer people over the head with opinion and beliefs and tell people what to do. Mostly it will just put people off. The absolute best thing you can do is just lead by example. Just be the shining light that captures people's attention, and they're like, I want to be like that. So let's all do that. Let's all pay a little bit of attention this week to how we can feed back into the grid with our own electricity. So yeah, capture this romantic energy, the feel of what we can be, what's possible. Seeing ourselves through God's eyes is what this kind of energy of Pisces is all about. And when we see ourselves through God's eyes, then we shine, then we really, really shine. So moving into Tuesday, Mars is going to get to the part of Capricorn where it's going to activate the nodal axis. So the south node in Capricorn and the north node in the opposition position in Cancer. So this could be quite, it could be just a new chapter, I think, to the ongoing story that's unfolding in the sign of Capricorn. As you may or may not be aware, we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction there, that very kind of rare and potent alignment between these very powerful planets. That was back on January the 12th, and that's by no means finished yet. That's going to be an ongoing story all year. We've got Jupiter moving into that neck of the woods in Capricorn to now bringing his kind of experiences, which we'll explore a little bit. And Mars moving over the nodal axis there as well. We could see some surprising events that crop up, sort of fitting another kind of piece of the puzzle that's going on here. That's unfolding becomes more sort of noticed. In the evening of Tuesday, the moon will move out of Pisces and cross the Aries point, as it's known. So the very first degree of Aries, 0 degrees Aries, called the Aries point. It's a very, very, very potent degree in astrology. It's essentially the very start of the zodiacal wheel. And usually this is, we see quite dramatic world events happen when there's big things playing up that are activating this point as well. So the moon will be, obviously she's waxing now as we've passed the new moon, she's growing. So as she's moving around, she's gaining momentum and size and influence all the time. And she will meet up with Chiron there at the beginning of Aries. So we've got, we've got the Aries point being activated, and we also have the sun will be sextiling the south node and trining the north node. So again, a real fated setup. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something quite fated or destined feeling taking place tomorrow. Tuesday being ruled by Mars, of course, as well, sort of allowing his energy to influence us just that little bit more. So let's watch out and see what arises there. Wednesday, we are actually deepening the an aspect that's in an applying aspect at the moment. That means it's building, it's getting closer and closer as the days go by. This is going to be a biggie, I think, as the week goes on. This is going to be an aspect between Venus. I was looking for a marker pen, but I don't seem to have one, so I'll just point. Venus in Aries will be creating a square aspect to Pluto up there in Capricorn. And as you may know, the square aspects tend to be pretty provocative. They can really stir things up. And I've been feeling this building for a little while. I think we're seeing it in the news already this week, and I think we'll continue to see it. So let's have a look. Venus is all about love, worth, self-worth. It's about the female, the feminine, and it's about money as well. So that's kind of the aspect of money. So it's love, worth, values, money, females. She's currently in Aries, which is kind of making her into a bit of a warrior, perhaps emboldening her just a little bit, which, depending on your starting point with Venus energy in your own chart, can be something that's quite welcome, or perhaps not. It could make Venus a little impulsive, a little bit unstable, because Aries is a masculine sign. It's ruled by Mars, and so Venus, she doesn't tend to shine in the qualities of Venus that we prefer. So in the sign of Aries, we're seeing a little bit more of a feisty or edginess to Venus and to Venus matters. Over here, we've got Pluto. Now, Pluto is largely associated with the darkness, with secrets, with things that are hidden and suppressed, and usually things that are taboo or wrong or evil in some way, our darkness, our shadow side, and also very much associated with a great level of intensity, a great amount of power, and often that power manifests in ways that are about control, issues of control. Okay, so there's excuse me, a lot to talk about with this, because of course what we've seen happening with the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn essentially is a breaking down, a dissolving, a dismantling of everything that Capricorn stands for, which is the patriarchy, the system, the capitalist kind of construct of our society that's very male dominated, very linear, very much about success, status, finance, this sort of thing. Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008 and it triggered the worldwide economic crisis. Pluto wants transformation. Pluto is saying, this isn't supporting us anymore. This system has got to a place where it's enslaved us, and it's turning into something that's poison for us. So this needs to be broken down, and we need to put things back together in a different way that allow a structure to take place that is supportive and does give us the security and, you know, security for everyone on this planet. Now, how far we've come in that process, you know, I don't really feel we've come awfully far. So I think what's happening is the closer Pluto gets to the end of the journey through Capricorn, and with this conjunction and as other planets move through, things will start to gather pace as the work in this sign needs to be brought to a close, ready for Pluto to move into Aquarius in 2023. So just a couple of years away. So I think that what we've seen is certainly the coronavirus that's been happening in viruses, illness, plagues, epidemics. These are very sort of synonymous with the Pluto and previous Pluto-Saturn conjunctions as well. But I've always had a feeling that the virus itself isn't really what this is all about. You know, the timing, you know, you can't argue the timing is absolutely about the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. But to me, it's like actually we're starting to see now what the purpose behind the virus is. And we're now starting to see the effect on the financial markets. This is where Venus comes in this erratic kind of placement here. We've also got echoes of that with Uranus, the destabilizing influence of Uranus in Venus's sign of Taurus. And as she squares Pluto this week, we're seeing this case of, oh, actually the virus and the damage that the virus is doing in terms of how business is being thwarted, essentially by the lockdowns, by the Saturnian influence of the authorities saying you can't travel, you must be quarantined, you know, we have to stop and block and restrict movement of people, stopping events, big events taking place around business. This is absolutely what we're seeing, and it's showing up on the money markets. Money markets around the world today are really dropping, and what tends to happen as a result of that is the price of gold goes up, and I think that's very much Jupiter's influence there. Jupiter is linked with gold, and it's an expansive energy, so I'm thinking that's where the connection is. So we're going to see a little bit more of this taking place as the week goes on, as this aspect gets tighter and tighter and tighter as the days go on. Now, you know, we've also got on the Wednesday Mercury retrograde as well. We'll then be making an exact sextile and trine to the nodal axis as well. So this is rethinking something, re-going over an old area. So, you know, we're going to see kind of repeating themes, repeating patterns of financial situations potentially. So let's just hold a bit of space for that. Now, in your personal chart, how is this showing up? Most likely it's going to show up in the sphere of relationship. Certainly I have felt this, I've experienced how this can play out a couple of times recently in interactions with men in a dating scenario where, you know, Venus in Aries, Venus is starting to gain her power. And I think that men are, or certain sections of the male community are intuitively experiencing the falling apart, essentially, of the man's world, you know, of this patriarchal system that we have. And, you know, women, irrespective of how aware or unaware women are, we are carrying the energetic DNA, the imprint, if you like, of many, many generations of women who've been oppressed under this structure, under this system, sent away to asylums because the marriage was inconvenient, you know, being unable to speak, to contribute to society, to go out into the workplace, you know, burnt at the stake as witches for trying to heal people. All of these situations, you know, we're carrying that around in us, like it or not. And when Venus is in Aries, she's kind of like empowered a little more, perhaps, to say no, actually no. And this is what I've done a couple of times recently. I've said no, and it's gone down very, very badly, because Pluto over here, it's just in Capricorn. He's like, but you're not supposed to say no. That irrespective of the awareness or lack thereof of the masculine, and it could be argued Pluto in Capricorn is toxic masculinity that we're seeing, you know, increasingly being revealed for what it is, rather than just being accepted. You know, this is men who know that, you know, they've done well, and they certainly are carrying around the imprint and the energetic DNA of entitlement, and that's now being challenged, and it's being exposed as something that actually isn't healthy, and it isn't right, and it's not going to be allowed to continue forever. And so there's a bit of an identity crisis going on. I think the deeper Mars gets into this energy, Mars being the masculine, we'll see a little bit more of this, but it's certainly what's playing up between Venus and Pluto at the moment. That controlling influence that we associate with Pluto also, to me, is tolerance. And I think tolerance is very much needed for when we think of the worst crimes and things, events that have happened throughout the human race. They've been allowed to happen because an awful lot of people have looked the other way. They've tolerated injustice, they've tolerated wrongdoing, for whatever reason. And I think now that we are coming face to face with issues that we have tolerated, that our soul, you know, with this energy over here in Pisces is our soul and our conscience, and the part of us that goes on beyond this lifetime. And there's that part of us that's communicating with us and going, you know, you shouldn't tolerate this. This isn't right. This isn't truth, because Pluto very much deals with truth. So I would anticipate any kind of repressed, pushed down feelings may come up to the surface in your relationship. Any issue where you feel that you've tolerated something, that it may just get to the point where you just think, I can't tolerate this anymore. I can't have a sense of self-worth and value and love for myself if I'm putting up with this. And so it can erupt, because if it's something that you have kind of tolerated, then in a sense you've enabled that to happen. And that's like this unspoken contract, a very Mercury retrograde in Pisces kind of vibe, the unspoken contract that you might have with your partner, that we both know this power play is going on, but we just don't bring it into the lightness of day. Well, this aspect might well just do that, bring it into the lightness of day. So on Thursday, the moon will meet up with Venus this waxing moon. So that's going to even add to the intensity of this situation. Pluto now at 22 degrees of Capricorn, which is the degree of the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn. So I think this could be a real peak moment potentially. So just watch out for those buried passions, and they might not even be directly related to yourself in some ways. This can be, like I say, this almost like a purging of, on behalf of all the women that have come before you, or all the men and the situation men are finding themselves in now. It could be this battle of, gosh, who are we if we aren't what we've always been? That awful difficulty that the sort of the dissolving of the patriarchy is creating for men, and how we're meeting that as empowered women. It's very, very interesting also to me that Julian Assange has this Venus-Pluto square in his birth chart. And of course, this week, his hearing starts in court. I think it's already started today, actually, about whether or not he should be extradited to the US, where he's expected to not get a fair trial for publishing information in WikiLeaks that was given to him by a lady called Chelsea Manning. She's the whistleblower behind all of this, and she's been incarcerated. Chelsea Manning was in the army, and she saw documents that were suggestive of wrongdoing by the American forces, and leaked this information to Julian Assange. And Julian Assange took the decision to publish that and make it known. He wanted to expose, the Venus Pluto in his chart he's got Venus in Gemini, hence his love of freedom of speech. Okay, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It's all about words and writing. And here we are, the founder of WikiLeaks. What could be more Venus in Gemini square? Pluto in Virgo. So the Pluto in Virgo people tend to like the counterculture. They like kind of doing things in a little bit of an alternative way. A lot of alternative healing actually came about during the time with the people who had Pluto in Virgo. But also the Pluto in Virgo individual knows the devil is in the detail. And he's really, really been scuppered in terms of not being able to prepare for this court case, because they've denied him access to computers, to internet access and everything. He would have been able to prepare, having that level of knowledge of words and information, and the devil in the detail there with Pluto and Virgo. He would have gone over everything with a fine-tooth comb and made a really, really solid case for himself. So that's been denied. That's been controlled. That's Pluto. So it's very interesting to me that the day his court appearance starts is when we actually have this being mirrored in the sky above. And in fact, if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you bring up the natal chart of Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange, do a synastry chart, look at how their planets interact with each other, you'll notice quite a lot. But one of the things that jumps out is her Chiron is conjunct his Venus, activating the Venus-Pluto square in his chart. So very, very relevant to the situation. So then moving on into Friday, and the moon will have finished her journey in Aries, moving now into Taurus. Moon is exalted in Taurus, so we get a little bit more emotional stability and groundedness available if we tap into this. Perhaps not just as she's conjuncting Uranus at 3 degrees of Taurus at the very beginning, but Uranus there is looking for change, is wanting change, and I think we'll feel even more of those stirrings of the transformation that Pluto is trying to bring about. be it in your relationships or be it on the world financial markets, be it amongst, you know, men and women, Uranus is essentially supporting that. It's like, yeah, it's time to do things a new way. So I think that the moon, even though moon conjunct Uranus can be a little bit unstable, I think it will actually be a positive thing if we connect with it from a desire to bring about a better way of doing things. And Uranus is all about humanity, humanitarianism, essentially charity, equality as well. So this is, okay, can we do things in a better way that actually supports everyone on a level playing field? The field being a Taurus connection as well there. Saturday is the day that the Venus-Pluto square goes exact. Saturday is Saturn's day. And we have Mercury retrograde on that day, will be sextiling with Uranus. So more of that desire for, can we just do things differently? Can we take another look at this and come up with a better way of doing this? So this is really going to boil down to your level of self-awareness, in terms of, you know, Uranus is all about being authentic and not playing a role, you know, not wearing a mask, really, really getting down to what's the core authenticity of who you really are. If you found yourself in playing a role in your relationship by enabling something or going along with tolerating a situation, and this Uranus kind of vibe can very much be, I've got to break free. It really is. Uranus wants freedom. So the Mercury retrograde stimulating more of that is kind of like, oh, you know, something's come up again. And this time we've got to create something different from the situation. It's very much about release. It's very much about kind of being done with something, to be perfectly honest. The Taurus moon, as we move into Sunday, deepening into Taurus, she will then trine this lovely easy aspect over to Pluto in fellow Earth sign Capricorn. So this is something that could really facilitate any efforts that we're making, any genuine efforts that we're making to transform this area of our life, or however it's showing up for you. This could even be just an internal situation between feminine and masculine aspects of yourself. You know, it doesn't necessarily even need to involve anybody else. You know, we have a relationship with ourselves. So, you know, that could be something that's involved too. But any genuine efforts that you want to make in terms of transforming that will very much be facilitated by the moon in Taurus on Sunday. So essentially what this boils down to, I think, is understanding that this is on the horizon, giving it a little bit of consideration as to how, you know, if this does show up in your life, how you might approach the situation and what opportunity there is there for you for growth, because that's what this is all about, essentially. So yes, this could be the opening of Pandora's box, you know, if it's done blindly and without awareness and without any emotional maturity. You know, Moon in Taurus and Mars in Capricorn speaks volumes to emotional maturity. So if we can bring that into the situation, then it doesn't have to be a Pandora's box experience. This can be more of a healthy purging, you know, plant medicine. You know, Taurus is very much about the plant world. And with Pluto, we have a purge. So maybe this is a breakthrough that we have, you know, by having a healthy release of something toxic that just doesn't have a place in the life of someone who has great love and worth for themselves, and care for everyone else that we're sharing the planet with. So I think that's essentially my synopsis of the week, and I hope that's been useful for you. Have a really, really beautiful week, however this shapes up for you. Know that it's always, it could get potent, it could get intense, but you know, we tend to be needed to be pushed into our healing as human beings. We don't sort of wander around looking for these opportunities, they tend to find us. So try to embrace it and approach it in a grounded and mature way. And I really think that there's a huge amount of potential here to have some real long-term, lasting, healthy change that can then radiate out and connect with everyone else in the world. That's kind of how this all fits together. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, help me get the numbers up. It really, really helps me to find other people and to bring the wisdom of astrology to other people. Give me a like, give me a comment, tell me how it's playing out for you. Have you had any crazy dreams? Would you like to be involved in Project Pisces? Just connect with me and we'll see where we go from there. Thanks again, lots of love, and I'll see you next week.